During the recording of one of my latest videos, a potentially very dangerous malfunction occurred. Watch the sixth and last shot that is fired. What you just witnessed is known as a squib or squib load, and it's a situation that isn't particularly dangerous in itself, but if not handled correctly, and now we'll see how to do that, it can lead to catastrophic consequences. It mostly happens with reloaded ammunition, but it can also occur with commercial ammunition if, for any reason, there's no powder inside the case or the powder doesn't ignite. It's very rare for this to happen. It has happened to me personally. Twice, and this is the first and only time I managed to film it. The very light explosion you see is from the primer. The primer has its own force. Its force can potentially push the bullet into the barrel, where it gets stuck. In fact, to adhere to the rifling, the bullet is larger than the barrel itself, so that when it enters the rifling, it engraves into the rifling. However, to pass through the barrel, it needs a lot of force. You have to overcome this force, which is caused by the friction of the barrel's rifling itself. Just to tell you an interesting fact, one of the reasons why modern tanks use smoothbore barrels is precisely because they need to fire projectiles at extremely high speeds. And the friction from the rifling is a very serious problem. Quite often, the primers are strong enough to push the bullet out, but it gets stuck in the rifling. And by stuck, I mean really solidly stuck. It doesn't slide at all. You'll simply need tools to remove it. So, if the squib itself isn't dangerous, just think about what could happen if I tried to fire another shot in a gun after that. The second bullet that's fired hits the bullet stuck in the barrel, causing a very rapid and sudden increase in pressure, which almost always has catastrophic consequences for the gun and unfortunately sometimes for the shooter. The barrel must never be obstructed. Other obstructions that can happen, especially in environments with, let's call them difficult conditions, are mud getting into the barrel of long guns, especially when they are thrown to the ground or set down. This usually doesn't happen in the clean environment of an indoor shooting range. The most likely way sport shooters will end up with a barrel obstruction is from a squib. You have to be very careful when shooting to recognize a squib. How do you do that? Well, first of all, the sound will be very different and the recoil will be practically non-existent. So let's see how we reacted at the range when we noticed the squib. I think we're done shooting. Wait. Let's give it another second too. It was going too well. It's interesting that we caught this moment on camera. Now we have to check if there's a bullet stuck in the barrel by any chance. But yeah, it did make some smoke. Yeah, there could be a bullet in the barrel. I'd say we're good. Go ahead, try to unload it. Yeah. First of all, why did we wait before unloading the weapon? Often when there's a malfunction, it's instinctive to want to open the firearm. But there are situations where, for example, the primer goes off but the powder doesn't, and it can happen on rare occasions that the powder ignites even after 10, 15, or 20 seconds. This is what's called a hang fire, another type of malfunction that's closely related to a squib, where the powder ignites but a long time after the primer is fired. It's important in this case to keep the weapon pointed at the backstop for 10, 15, 20, even 30 seconds to avoid the possibility that the powder, if present, ignites. In fact, opening the weapon and then having the powder detonate is not a pleasant experience. As someone who has had a cartridge detonate with the action open, it's better to avoid it. You can't see very well during the removal of the casings, but by analyzing the footage frame by frame, there probably wasn't any powder in that cartridge. That's what caused the squib. So it's also very important to try to figure out what happened so you can maybe avoid the mistake in the future. There's something like a primer. I can already see the primer that came out. Yes, it stayed in the barrel. Let me see. Let's see if we can show it. Yes, there's clearly the bullet in the barrel. Look at the cylinder. Do you see that the light doesn't go through? This is interesting. This is my fault. Or the primer. A shell casing was found. Can you cover them briefly? There was a primer that was really strange. That's what I thought. Maybe this one. This one. Look at the primer. It really came out. What do you think happened? Someone put powder in it. Afterwards, unfortunately, we didn't film this because we didn't have the right tools at the range. We removed the bullet stuck in the barrel. Squibs are rare, but you have to be very careful. There are people who have unfortunately fallen victim to this particular malfunction. One of these victims is very famous. His case is extremely well known. We talked about it a few years ago on the channel. It's Brandon Lee's case. And the various mistakes that were made with the firearms that led to his death included a squib. To know all the details of this story, you can click in the top right corner. Anyway, Flump, we're done shooting. Luckily, we've already filmed everything. These were the last takes. But yes, Flump. There's no damage. You can take it out. The important thing is not to do it a second time. Be careful when you go shooting. This can happen. It does happen. Don't be in a hurry to shoot. Pay attention to the sound your firearm makes too. Because luckily, this was the 6th shot. But if you hadn't noticed, and I hadn't noticed, and you fired another one after, today wouldn't have been a good day at the shooting range. I hope you found this video interesting and instructive. Be very careful with firearms. It's important to understand how firearms and ammunition work to have a safe experience at the shooting range. And let this serve as a general rule. If you have any kind of doubt about the condition of the firearm, or if the ammunition has fired and worked properly, or if you notice anything strange, stop shooting. Stop shooting and examine the firearm. If you're not sure, have someone who knows more than you examine it. These are firearms. This is not a joke. That's all from me. As always, I'll see you next time.